So I keep coming back to this question of why am I doing this? Recording, interacting with social media still, even though I remove myself from it as often as I can. And that question leads to and is led by the question of what is my mission? What is my purpose? What is my value in the current conversation? And I don't know. That's what I keep coming back to. I don't know. I think I know, and I'll start heading in that direction, and then we're going to call it, I'll get thrown off track. So I'd like to talk perhaps about the little bit of the getting thrown off track, because what I'd like to do, like my personal, private desire, is to help other people do something that's creatively expressive, whatever that is for you. I used to get asked all the time, are you an artist? And the question made me really uncomfortable when I was younger, because the people who were asking, or the situations in which the question was being asked, were situations in which people thought I was a painter or a sculptor. I was surrounded by artists. And I continue to this day to be surrounded by people who actually make things with their hands and their minds, and things that we would call art. And I have definitely done these things, but I don't do them as my way of living my life, like painting or sculpture or dance or singing and all of the other things in the visual arts and performing arts. But I am an artist, and this is what I started recognizing, because the thing that I loved at the time was body work. I loved body work, and I loved the spa, and I loved creating that environment. And from childhood, I had a love for temple spaces and cathedrals. And I guess for my spirit, I was fortunate enough to have been raised on a continent where there were a lot of cathedrals, and raised by a parent whose work was in the church. And so that gave me consistent experience with a particular type of environment that can soothe the soul. Now, I know there's a lot of problem with church, but I'm not talking about church. I'm talking about the cathedral experience, the temple experience, the prayer, the quiet, the silence, the being with Creator experience. I loved that so much. And I felt, I'm looking at a bird up on a roof right now, and it's just so perfectly placed. I felt like a priestess at my altar when I was doing body work, and that is an art to me. And the way that I was in the room, and the way that I prepared myself, and the way that I prepared my table, and the way that I prepared my clients, that was all an art to me. And then there were other areas of my life where I was also very creative, very artistic, very expressive. And I started realizing we are all creative. We are all artists. And when we don't create, when we don't create what is inspiring us, then we create the conditions for depression and these very difficult, it's very heavy and very dark and very difficult. And if you've been there and experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. You don't need me to explain this to you. But what we're not often reminded of is that if we don't create, if we don't express in some way on a regular basis, we create the conditions in ourselves where we do become spiritually heavy, and also where we feel confused. So confusion becomes an outlet instead of creativity. And that's where I have been for some time. So I'm, and have, since I realized that I am an artist, I have been dedicated to helping other people recognize your own creativity. Our creativity is not locked up in one mode of expression. If you have a way with spices in your kitchen, this was one of the ways that I recognized artistry was with food. And it can be really simple, basic food, and it can be really elaborate, extravagant meals. There's a man who does the Mesopotamian kitchen or Mesopotamian tales. I don't know. Maybe I'll look it up and see if I can share that with you. But he loves the history of Mesopotamian recipes and food and even agricultural practices, and he teaches this. And then I don't know if he's actually attempting or if he knows that the recipes will work out, but he recreates these ancient recipes and people love it. This is artistry. And it can be, your particular artistry can be so incredibly specific and unique and so niche, unusual, that it can be really easy to make the decision that whatever it is you are interested in is of no relevance or importance even to you. And I'm encouraging you to reconsider that thought if that's the headspace that you live in. First of all, it's most important that the things that we're interested in be interesting and important to us if we're going to continue on with them. I'm thinking of situations where people have pursued something, thought not much of it, it didn't mean anything to them, and then their efforts with that thing did actually impact somebody else. So it was more about the other person than the one who decided to channel that information through them. But I don't want to play in that playground today with this conversation. I want us to understand that we are inspired and drawn to and compelled to be close to things for our own benefit and the benefit of at least one other person on the planet. And right now, all of my life, creativity has been a vital resource and necessary. I'd really like to use the word medicine less, but necessary medicine for the person, again, channeling the experience and the ones receiving. But in these times, whatever this madness is that we're in right now, our creativity, I believe, is the thing that's going to see us through. Now, there's also other things like resourcefulness and adaptability, but I believe creativity is adaptability, and I believe resourcefulness is creativity. So for me, it just keeps coming back to creativity and creative expression. And this can be, I've said this before. I actually used to teach this when I was coaching people. And I know I'm real vague about what I do, guys. I think that it's time that I start getting into a bit of my story about why my brain is the way it is, and what I have experienced that has led me to this point, being able to have this conversation at this time, like what I'm bringing with me. But for now, I lost my train of thought. I've got too many things in here. And they all want to come out at the same time. I'm just going to say this because there might be someone else who relates, but I often have an image of a herd of animals, and sometimes the animals change, but they're rushing to the front of my brain, like rushing it, like tumbleweed animal words. And sometimes I lose my train of thought. But we're talking about creativity and how important it is for these times, and how resourcefulness, adaptability, courage. I think courage is courage. But so many of these other things, these other word tangents that I can get off on, for me, they come back to creativity. So if you have been feeling shut down, stunted, directionless, confused, frightened, anxious, creative expression is something that can help you through. And you can do the traditionally recognized creative things, writing. And when I say any of these, I'm not talking about being good at it. Like, I'm just do it. Get a sheet of watercolor paper and some whatever, charcoals, Crayolas, whatever you have access to and whatever interests and appeals to you. There are people on YouTube who show their excursions on collecting natural clay. I love watching these. I dream of going and doing this. There are people who sit there and let you watch them knit and do stitch work. And there's just so many ways to learn if you feel you don't know. But also there's something that you know how to do just innately without needing to look to someone else for a lesson. We need our creative energy flowing. I don't know what we need that for, but we need our creative energy flowing. And if you have been stuck, fearful, or some of the other things that I have mentioned, I am encouraging you to tap into your creativity and let it move through your system. You don't have to share it with anybody else. It doesn't have to be anything that you even return to. You could treat it as a sand mandala and sketch it out, build it out, whatever, and then take it down. The point is to just let your creative self express and at least be seen and witnessed by you. I think I'm actually going to stop this recording and then go to the one that I actually sat down to record. I'll see you in a bit.